Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Lisa K. Donner, Dave Patterson, Graham Noble, and John Clark. And this is The Conservative 5, an online TV production of Liberty Nation News. On today's episode, Keeping Pace, the president is on a roll, and it's been tough for the media to keep pace in Trump is exhausting. The Department of Government Efficiency targets CIA-run program in the U.S. called USAID. In USAID, drama fatigue. And it's deja vu all over again, and DNC didn't learn a thing. Finally, it's another quick fix to flex the brain in Just for Fun, Volume 64. All this and more coming up in this edition of The Conservative 5. After 4 years of strolling along, wondering where Joe Biden might be on vacation, Trump came back. And he is exhausting. No one, especially the legacy print media, has time for much more than a quick headline and a quote from a Democratic politician on why everything he does is bad. President Trump has done more, it would appear, in 2 weeks than the 4 years the Biden bunch spent tooling around. Dave, you and I have had back-channel chats on the media's hypoxia over the speed of decisions. Can you start us off kind of a quick review or maybe even a comparison on 4 years ago till now?
Oh, my goodness, Sarah. I mean, to your point, if you use the number of press conferences as a metric, Joe Biden had the fewest at 37 over 4 years. President Trump has had a press availability for practically every one of his 200 executive orders that he signs, and he has taken more executive actions in his first 3 weeks than most presidents in 2 terms. So this is a whirlwind experience for the press in the White House. You know, perhaps the most important action to date was Trump's issuing of National Security Presidential Memorandum number 2. This is the reapplication of crippling sanctions against Iran. And, you know, the number and speed of Trump's presidential actions has the media's collective heads spinning. A reporter barely has a title figured out before he's being faced with another news blitz from the pen of the president. You know, from sounding the federal government death knell for diversity, equity, and inclusion to prohibiting biological males from participating in girls' sports, imagine, Trump has been a tornado signing machine with well over 200 executive orders and presidential actions. If the White House press corps is definitely going to have to up their game if they're going to keep up with President Trump.
I mean, I thought it was interesting that he kind of threw out some fear tactics on that Fourth Estate and shook up the White House press corps and some other major news outlets. We have a clip. I want everybody to take a look at this clip, and then we'll talk about how boutique media might be on the rise.
It is a fact that Americans are consuming their news media from various different platforms, especially young people. And as the youngest press secretary in history, thanks to President Trump, I take great pride in opening up this room to new media voices to share the president's message with as many Americans as possible. In doing so, number one, we will ensure that outlets like yours, Axios and Breitbart, which are widely respected and viewed outlets, have an actual seat in this room every day. We also, again, encourage anybody in this country, whether you are a TikTok content creator, a blogger, a podcaster, if you are producing legitimate news content, no matter the medium, you will be allowed to apply for press credentials to this White House.
I guess what I think is interesting about that, it's the Trump administration just kind of, kneecapped a couple of the big boys to include what people are calling boutique media. I mean, that could be all sorts of things. So, Lisa, or even John Clark, let's talk about these kind of outlets and their impact that they are having.
Okay, well, I've been fighting this issue of the Iron Dome over the White House press briefing room for decades now. And, we tried to get in early on, and they had such a high bar, and they voted on you and everything. And the Trump administration is just opening it up. So we've already applied. So, so have 7,000 other people. But, it's worth doing. And If Americans wanted a transparent presidency executive branch, they got one. That's for sure. Now, they're only opening up one seat, so they're not taking anybody's seat. They're giving up their own seat. But, it's a start. It's a step in the right direction.
I think it's a good step in the right direction. I mean, it's a giant step for press, especially an independent, more fact-based kind of thing instead of the talking heads kind of thing. So I wanted to quickly talk about this exhaustion that Trump is inflicting on all of us, including Liberty Nation News, because every time we're just very busy trying to keep up with this man. But I want to talk about Gaza, and I want Graham to weigh in on this and the proposal he made. Are we keeping the fourth estate on their toes, or are we really use this strategy? I mean, how are we looking at this? How are you looking at this, Graham?
Oh, it's hard to tell with Trump whether he is serious or not about the Gaza thing. You tend to think he is. I mean, I could see there are an awful lot of pros and cons to Gaza becoming a kind of administered by the US. My personal view is that there are far more cons than there are pros, but it's an interesting idea. But you never know with Trump. Is he just throwing this out there to distract everyone from somebody else, or just to get the head spinning in the fourth estate? Oh no. I mean, first it was Greenland, and then it was the Panama Canal, and now it's Gaza.
The Gulf of America.
The Gulf of America. There you go. I mean, it's a very interesting
lagoon. It's
a very interesting concept, and of course, it would be a game changer for the Middle East. And though I am not a huge fan of the whole idea of it, there are certain ways that it could, if all the countries in the region kind of bought into that kind of idea, then it certainly would be good. It would certainly, I think, bring a certain amount of stability to the area, particularly right there where it's just south of Lebanon and south of the southern part of Lebanon, which is Hezbollah territory. Right next to Israel, of course, not too far away from Iran, which probably will give them the creeps. Interesting idea. I was just kind of mulling over what they could call it. I mean, they could go for something like the American Riviera, but I actually like the idea of Gazafornia.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, at least we have one place that ended in Ornia that liked us. This guy is in his 70s. How's he going to keep this up for 4 years? John Clark.
Well, he's 10 years younger than Bernie Sanders and some others that are in there, so he's still a spring chicken. I think that he's going to keep it up. I think he came in loaded for bear, and we see a carrot and stick approach from everything from international relations down to that press corps video you showed. I might name drop that I have seen Carolyn Levitt speak here in New Hampshire, nearby Vermont, when she was running for Congress a few years ago, and she is a firebrand, and she's proving it, and she is smart. And so we don't just need one old guy. Whatever we call old, okay? So he's got a lot of really brilliant talent around him. This is what a meritocracy looks like instead of an identity rainbow fest. And in fact, it's bringing diversity to the media. Instead of a stranglehold of the mainstream media, what she is talking about is actually opening up to what people are watching. Podcasts and other avenues, why do they watch them? Because of authenticity and trust that has been lost by the mainstream media. And I think this is filtering through very many aspects of this multifaceted approach with hundreds of EOs, but every agency is being turned upside down, not just by Trump alone, but by the team, the army of very passionate patriots who are coming to not retaliate against the last administration, but to simply hit the reset button for what free speech looks like, what integrity and accountability in government looks like. It's probably been many bipartisan, both parties in power since we've seen this kind of change that you can believe in. And I think people are waiting to see. And I think we're going to see nonstop energy of this sort for 4 years and maybe beyond that if it is effective.
Funny, I took a moment, Sarah, and I went through some of his blizzard of actions.
That's a good
and
way
I
to
and I
call
wrote
it.
down a few for us, including but not limited to emailing 2 million federal employees telling them show up for work or take the golden parachute and resign, firing 6 FBI senior officials who were involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid, or J6, sending out a survey to thousands of FBI agents to find out if they were any way involved in the J6 debacle, and I don't think he's looking to hand out participation trophies. Oh, by the way, hunting down and arresting some 8,000 illegal migrants. In terms of concessions, he's managed to get Mexico to place 10,000 federales at the border and Musk a free hand, and Musk is upsetting the folks inside the Beltway daily. Its next move on USAID is causing heartburn. I mean, then there's the Dirty 51 who no longer have security clearance. I mean, and on and on and on, and we're just 2 weeks in.
I'll add another one to that.
Release it right now. You need that now.
I'll add another of the most recent one to that. The entire staff of the Central Intelligence Agency has been offered a golden parachute.
Oh, really? Okay, well,
Lead would be better.
if you take a moment to do something else, you've missed a Trump directive.
John Clark, take that back and apologize.
What, that a lead parachute would not be more appropriate? Why give them gold?
Okay.
All right. I didn't know that was.
Let's give them a break, and we're not going to act like that, John Clark, or you're going to be in timeout.
I don't trust the CIA.
Nobody does. They're spooks for a reason.
The CIA doesn't trust the CIA.
Doesn't trust the CIA.
Dave, you're our national security guy. Talk about Gaza a little bit. I think this is just another smokescreen, just like North Korea. Great.
The art of the deal.
On the
I have a little bit different view of this. I mean, I think that one of the things that symbolizes the way President Trump deals with stuff is he gives the people who are supposed to do things time enough to think through it. And we've had since, for almost a year prior to Hamas to figure out what to do with Gaza. And virtually no one has come up with anything that makes sense. And so Trump will say, if you guys can't do it, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the way Rubio says, if you guys are going to continue to behave badly in USAID, I'll manage you.
Rubio gets a, gold star for getting El Salvador to take anybody that nobody else will take. I mean, that's incredible that he did that.
He thought they're all going to be a little more surprised about that man's ability. He's never been this much on the national stage, and I think we're all going to be pleasantly surprised at his role.
I think, too, Lisa, to your point, Rubio does have somewhat of an advantage because he can say, you can listen to me or you can listen to my dad.
Yeah, that's a good point. He really, has life experience and his whole family,
Yeah. I mean, you can't get better than that when a refugee that has escaped and was welcomed into this country because, they went through the legal process and did what they needed to do. You will never, ever meet a more patriotic American, I don't believe. But
here's one thing that the press doesn't get is Trump's chess playing. They just don't get it. They take everything at face value, and they don't see how he's managed to maneuver and manipulate Canada, Mexico, China. We're just 2 weeks in.
Well, he's got the laser pointer and a whole bunch of cats are trying to play.
Yeah, good.
I'll throw in one more quick comment about Gaza as well.
All right, there's got to wrap it up, Graham. Go ahead.
This whole thing just could be a big scare tactic. He's putting the fear of God into Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and all those people there. They're thinking, oh, we've got to get this sorted out once and for all because otherwise the US is going to come here and just take it over. And they don't want that.
They don't want that. Well, guys, what a wild e-ticket ride. We the people elected. Liberty Nation News will do our level best to keep all of you updated. Thanks, panel. Stay awake. Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is in full cleanup mode, and one agency is about to feel the pain of it all. The U.S. Agency for International Development, or in common language, USAID. Well, they spent 50 billion, capital B, in taxpayer funds. And by the name, it should be a good thing, right? Here's what you might not know. The purpose of this mammoth agency is not aid-oriented at all, but instead acts as an arm of the State Department and is, in a sense, an extension of the Central Intelligence Agency, the spooks. Lisa, I want to start with you. You wrote a really eye-opening piece this week, and then pivot to Graham. Where'd the money go? Where's it coming from? I mean, I never even heard of this agency before this week.
Oh, good questions. I put down a few things, but first, let me just explain. USAID does not stand for aid. It stands for the United States Agency for International Development. It's actually kind of a way to embed the U.S. into other nations in order to exercise, and Dave can speak to this, what's known as soft power. So they help out the State Department, and maybe that's why they ultimately put it under the State Department. But anyway, the purpose is to provide information, in-country information, to the CIA. So USAID it's just a mushrooming agency, spent $72 as in $1 billion in 2023. And they do have a sugar daddy. And I will give credit to Joe Schaefer, who on our site way back in 2020 made a connection between George Soros and USAID. But I digress. Here's a breakdown. $16 billion last year to Ukraine, $1.6 billion to Ethiopia, $1.9 billion to Jordan, $1 billion to Afghanistan, and in the vicinity of $1 billion for Somalia, the Congo, Syria, Nigeria, Yemen, South Sudan. It's crazy. And you have to look at it this way. What are they spending their money on? Okay, $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and businesses. $70,000 for production of a DEI musical in Ireland. $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. No
I don't even see that being well attended in Colombia. I'm sorry.
A transgender comic book in Peru. And my personal favorite, $20 million to fund Sesame Street in Iraq. Now, there is some reason for soft power advantages to aid money, but I'll let Dave handle that. But we've got to be good stewards of what the taxpayers are giving us. And I don't think this is the stewardship that the American people was hoping for.
So Graham, is the State Department and the CIA, just how connected are those two in USAID? It seems like the CIA, that's her whole job anyway.
Well, there's always been a rather incestuous relationship between the State Department, USAID, or, back then, years ago, it was just called AID. But them and the Central Intelligence Agency, back as far, you can go back to 1972 and Senator Edward Kennedy claiming that USAID money was going to the CIA to fund its guerrilla war in Laos. And the CIA kind of fought back against that allegation, but apparently a lot of that was kind of documented. USAID money,
probably true, Graham.
USAID money was definitely going into Laos, but they were saying it was going in to fund health programs. But then in the early 2000s, USAID contracted a company that operated out of Costa Rica, and this company was tasked with creating a social media platform similar to Twitter for Cuba. And the idea was that it was essentially being used to gather information in Cuba and also to kind of foment a certain amount of instability. The company in question, interestingly enough, was called Creative Associates Incorporated. That's right, CAI. And that company actually spent a lot of its time doing kind of destabilization work in Cuba, and it was getting money through the State Department, through a State Department program. It was getting money from USAID. So there's all a very convoluted relationship there.
I'm sort of interested, Sarah, in what Dave has to say, because there is some national security issues at play here.
Yeah, Absolutely, Lisa. I mean, for example, USAID has been caught funneling money through a cutout in Michigan to actually pay for meals for Syrian terrorists. And one has to wonder what in the world that has to do with either the CIA or the United States foreign policy. This is an agency that has gone rogue, and I'm not even sure that the CIA has any control over it. It's just a propaganda arm of a rogue, woke, social justice agenda that people have totally lost control of. To give you an example, we just got kicked out of Uganda and Chad. And why? Principally because they really do know the difference between a boy and a girl, despite what USAID might push on them in terms of a woke agenda. So you've got to, they have just gone rogue. If you've ever worked with USAID, you know how obdurate and difficult it is. It's either their way or the highway, and they can't even put a highway around Kabul.
I'm still having a hard time trying to figure out how any kind of investment in foreign, to gain intelligence has anything to do with gender studies or gender identity or transgender musicals. I don't get that. And how does that, how does the State Department even benefit from that? Who's benefiting from this? Nobody. Are they? Somebody tell me I'm wrong.
I can tell you.
Okay.
Am I up next? It's part of a globalist agenda that uses those doctrines to confuse people and keep their eye off the ball. And if you look at the USAID, you'll see that it does, as Graham said, go way back. But I'd like to use a lens that you sort of suggested, that who could be against this? And if we look at this, what's going on right now through the American partisan lens, we've heard histrionic howling from people on the left saying this is going to traumatize all sorts of people. And Ilhan Omar and particularly Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut said that this supports freedom fighters around the world. And both of them and others are saying it's unconstitutional what they're doing, to take them apart. It's illegal. It's tyrannical. Well, if we start looking, and I think Elon Musk and others, given their strong statements, will be showing us what this agency has actually been doing. It has been acting illegally, unconstitutionally, and tyrannically against Americans' interests, and not limited to DEI. There was also $500 million for Nepal to spread atheism. Is that a church and state problem? Or are we just establishing religions in other countries? And even if sending millions of dollars to Vietnam to promote EV cars was good for the climate, which it isn't, why are we funding their cars? So I think Americans who are upset right now at the false charges that this is somehow eviscerating these vital humanitarian programs, I think when they start seeing the truth, they might say, well, no, actually, I don't support censoring U.S. journalists, supporting activities that discredit journalists who question our activities in Ukraine, that discredit Tucker Carlson as an agent of the Russians. There are some things coming out right now that suggest this agency has been really dabbling in areas that are very much against our interests, regardless of the DEI stuff. And then one allegation is that it was funding a public relations campaign on behalf of the pesticide industry to discredit the journalists Michael Pollan and the other fellow, Mark Bittman. And these are very credible journalists who have warned about toxins in foods. You would think all Americans would want to make us healthy again. If we don't have bipartisan agreement that this agency, to the extent it is engaged in, actual humanitarian aid, in actually winning the hearts and minds, for instance, of people in Afghanistan with a hospital, well, Rubio, Secretary Rubio, has said he's not there to destroy the agency, but to realign its interests with what is the best interest of the U.S. And what a lot of people who are howling out there against this activity are going to look awkward about later is that this was the agency we later, decades later, found out was allied with the lovely Kissinger in his 1974 Kissinger report, which called for a globalist organization to further the national security interests of industries to secure the natural resources of developed nations. That was prepared in 74. It wasn't released till 89. And from a look at the documents, it looks like the memo authorizing it was not released till 2007. And what that memo shows is collaboration between, guess who? The CIA, the USAID, and the State Department and the USDA. This looks fishy to me, and anybody who doesn't want that cleaned up must be an active puppet of certain globalists or other entities that are not looking at the American self-interest. So I think some of those on the far left who have jumped the gun in condemning this action are going to have to do a little bit of a turnabout when the truth comes out, because I don't think that that Elon Musk and others are making the very strong charges against this agency without some proof to back it up. And I think we'll be seeing that coming forward.
Isn't all this, back and forth between Musk, Doge, and this USAID, USAID, sorry, and Secretary Marco Rubio, isn't that going to put him in a really tight spot? I mean, he's the one that has to navigate these waters, right?
Oh, I think that he's in the catbird seat. He's in charge, and he's going to make sure that the good things that are possible with USAID continue, and the propaganda arm and those things that are working consistently against the U.S. national interests will be taken away.
Yeah, now, John, you have put together a beautiful soliloquy on how USAID has perverted the money that has been given to it and its mission. But in its purest sense, Dave or Graham, maybe either one of you can shed some light. In its purest sense, USAID can actually do good things, because, Dave, you wrote about China was infiltrating into Africa and America was drawing back from Africa. And what they were doing was helping with schools, helping with water, helping dig wells, and do things for actual international development, which is good stuff that we should be involved in instead of wasting our money with all this crazy left-wing nonsense.
I think that's right.
Hire the Peace Corps.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, where does the Peace Corps stop and USAID begins? Are we duplicating our efforts? And where we are, we should stop that. But your point is that the USAID has the opportunity to be a positive force in blunting the impact of China and bad actors where we don't want them.
Exactly. And that's what it should be doing. And if it was doing that, it would be very helpful.
I'll be curious to see what the breakdown is, how much of its budget has been allocated in legitimate enterprises versus a shadow agency for rogues, which I think the rogues are scrambling right now because they're being pulled out in the light.
When a country is trying to gain or exert influence in the third world particularly, but just in the rest of the, across the rest of the globe in general, there's two ways they do it. They either buy influence by buying the influential people in those countries, buying them off, or you win hearts and minds by actually aiding the people who need it. And Dr. and former Senator Ron Paul once said, foreign aid is taking money from poor people in rich countries and giving it to rich people in poor countries. And so, really, if you want an effective aid program, that is great. And I agree, Lisa, we should be. There's certain aids that we should be doing in certain parts of the world for our own interests and also altruistically to help certain other people in other parts of the world. But, the aid has got to go to the people who need it and not to the people who are just given the responsibility of distributing it, because then they distribute a large quantity of it to themselves and their friends.
I'd like to see the white paper on why we have to give this amount of money to these people. I would love to see that.
Why is it the Palestinians are so pro-Hamas? Because he who has the gold rules. And, this country has always had the gold, and we've squandered our, what's the word for it? We've squandered our power, I think, in many ways by using it for stupid stuff like this. Hamas uses money to, to pay and feed and clothe a lot of these Palestinians, which is why they're loyal to them.
Right. All right, guys, we got to wrap this one up. Cutting government waste is a good thing. Well, maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens, and I think I'll pass on asking the CIA for any kind of answers. Thanks for watching. The Democratic National Committee has squabbled their way through the election of a new chairman and a vice chairman. The party who blames all losses for 2024 on racism and misogyny elected 2 white guys to pull the organization out of the death spiral of this past 4 years. You may never guess who those 2 pale guys are. Well, Graham, remind our viewers of the lesson not learned. Describe our new leaders of the Democratic National Committee.
Well, they decided to go with the whole co-chair thing. I'm not really sure why that was. I guess it was because they really just couldn't make up their minds between the 2 outstanding candidates they had off their shortlist. And the funny thing is one of those co-chairs is none other than a young gentleman named David Hogg, who is well known to all of us who pay any attention whatsoever to Democratic Party politics. David Hogg, of course, was the guy who his only claim to fame was being enrolled in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School at the time that there was that horrible mass shooting, and then he became a huge advocate for gun control. Even though there is a lot of rumors, whether they're true or not, I don't know for sure, but there's a lot of rumors he wasn't actually even in the building that day when the shooting happened. But anyway, so he's done that, and he's flitted around. He's even flirted with capitalism and tried to set up a company selling pillows, and then he started complaining on social media that there was too much government red tape involved in setting up a company, which for a progressive is kind of funny that he would do that. But yeah, so this guy is now the co-chair of the Democratic Party, which that alone tells you that they, you know, a lot of people on the right have been saying ever since November of last year, a lot of people on the right have been saying, have the Democrats learned absolutely nothing from their election loss? And the answer is clearly no, because really, David Hogg, who embodies and promotes and advocates for all of the very things that America rejected in November. So that's incredible. I guess it's a sign of how unknown the other co-chair is. He was the guy who basically wanted Trump to be thrown in prison or something, or, you know, he's a major case of TDS with him as well. So how did they pick these 2 guys that are the worst, you know, the absolute embodiment of everything that has gone wrong with the Democratic Party in the last, 8 or 10 years?
Well, during the process, the moderators, said, "Hey, candidates, raise your hands if we lost, 2024 because of racism and misogyny." And every candidate, like, whatever.
Did anybody see the soundbite of the lady getting up there and saying, "Wait, it has to be one binary, one."
Yes. Yeah.
And they were confused. They didn't get their own stuff straight, and so somebody else came on and she got it completely wrong. And
that was like a Monty Python skit, the way they tried to go into explaining their own rules about what they call gender. It was hilarious. But it's a messaging thing. The Democrats believe that their loss was a messaging thing, and that's the problem, of course, because everyone knows that it wasn't. But they are determined that, no, there was nothing wrong with our platform. There's nothing wrong with our philosophy. There's nothing wrong with all of our little progressive pet projects. It's just the problem was the American people didn't understand us properly. And
the everyday Democrat, though, that casts a vote, the everyday guy that works in a factory or works, at the car dealership or as a mechanic or a farmer, those Democrats, they must have left. And I don't know how they see that this is attracting that working class. And so I guess I'm confused by the picks. I don't know. I mean, are we going to see a new message emerging? Somebody tackle that one for me.
I could suggest that, well, this is something I spent a lot of time working on here in Vermont, particularly because, this is a very progressive state. And for instance, Vermont, just today, another report of some more illegal entrants coming over our border accused of human trafficking, and a recent arrest of a Venezuelan who was found with cocaine residue after re-entering the country after serving 3.5 years in prison in New York for burglary. And yet, our government, our liberals here on the left, I should say, are so extremist that they're rallying the troops to protect people here illegally at the expense of the safety and well-being of Vermonters. And so the party nationally is echoing that. Thomas Frank wrote a great book called Listen Liberal about how the liberals lost the working class and became the Martha's Vineyard elites. And he's very strong about it. He wrote that in 2017. And what he said was, you can't continue to win elections solely on the base of the message that Donald Trump is bad and you should vote for us because we hate him. You have to have policies. And what I'm noticing in the cacophony coming out of the Democratic national coffin is that they keep talking about reaching out on policies and people, but they don't have any. They're really back to the hate. And they're back to saying, we have to oppose these evil people. It's not resonating. Americans want to know, you mentioned it, it's working class people. They want to know how you're going to bring down the prices of eggs, not blame Trump for it, how you're going to help us with jobs, help us with the borders. Look at the borders and the crime. Every demographic increased in support of Republicans. And it's sad that the Democrats can't get back to what was their liberal base instead of this far left extremism that continues to dominate them.
Does anybody remember Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and the Stages of Grief?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I think the last one used to be 5, now there's 7, I don't know. But the last one is acceptance. And that's what the Democratic National Committee hasn't been able to embrace. So they're flailing away at like far left wing, haven't reached the center positions that would be acceptable to most of the Democrats. And they continue down the road that it's going to be hurting themselves and spinning their wheels going nowhere. I mean, this last election was a total repudiation of where they stand and what they stand for. And somehow they haven't gotten the message yet. Somebody else was saying, let's run Harris again in 2028. Please do.
Yeah, to your point, they're stuck in denial.
Yeah, they haven't acceptance. They just haven't gotten there yet.
But was it going to take them 4 years to get there, and then to go back to the whole message again? It's the messages for Hillary Clinton. The message, I'm with her. With her doing what? I mean, come on, give us something to go on. If I am your just Democrat on the street, I want to know when the egg prices are going down. Like Clark said, I want to know when I can afford groceries again. I want to know these things. And I want to know how you're going to fix them. Not that, I will. No, tell me how. I'm not that stupid. I want a plan. And I just wonder how much of that mainstream blue dog Democrat has just sat around scratching their head for the last 4 years.
So Sarah, there's something that I think that was very enlightening in that Ken Martin made a statement, and it wasn't his intention to be symbolic of their problem, but he said, quote, "The reality is what we need to do right now is really start to get a handle around what happened last election cycle. We know that we lost ground with Latino voters. We know we lost ground with women and younger voters. And of course, working class voters. We don't know the how and why yet." Oh my gosh. Have you ever thought that it might have been a toxic message that no one bought?
Well, maybe that's
Tell us how you feel there, Dave Patterson.
maybe the solution of the egg crisis is we need more roosters to be laying eggs. We need more trans roosters of color.
Well, AOC was just complaining, well, how come our egg prices aren't down? It's been 2 weeks. I mean, he's been in there 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We could ask why they're up. As Biden killed 100 million on the way out the door, 100 million chickens, that'll do it.
Yeah.
I think the Democratic Party is going to be in the political wilderness for at least at least one more election cycle. Maybe after that they'll wake up. And the reason is very simple: is it doesn't take any. You don't have to be any kind of like a political scientist to figure this out. It's simply because the people who have got who are now got the party in a stranglehold, referring to what John Clark said. You know, there was a day when the Democratic Party was actually run by liberals, actual real liberals, and they're gone now. Now it's progressives, and these people are crazy. I mean, I'm sorry, that's the only way to describe it. But the thing is, they will never. Those people that are in charge right now are never going to suddenly one day say, you know, this transgender ideology we were pushing, it's just, you know, it's been rejected. We were wrong. It wasn't a good idea. You know, the DEI we were pushing has been rejected. The 24/7 hatred of Trump and everyone who votes for him, that hasn't worked. You know, they're never going to admit that what they have pushed didn't work and was not taking people in the direction they wanted to go. So therefore, they're going to have to wait now. The Democrats are going to have to wait until another generation, a new breed of people takes control of that party who actually do know that all that stuff was horrible and toxic and divisive.
I heard somebody on TV this morning saying the Democratic base, which is located in Aspen and Martha's Vineyard, and as long as that continues, they're not going to go anywhere.
I'm not one to make predictions, but the leadership of this team is looking kind of shaky. And I think they, whether they want to hear it or not, they probably need a little praise and prayer for guidance to see where they go in the next 4 years. Thanks, panel. Thanks for watching. We are back to have a little fun with the panel in the month of love. Because Dave Patterson smokes this panel every time in trivia, he's going to run the board today. He can't cheat if he's running the board. Take it away, Pentagon Dave.
Hey, thank you, Sarah. This is a great honor for me, and those are really big shoes to fill that Andrew had. But I'm looking forward to doing this job. You know, so let's get to it. But first, as we always do, you know, I'm going to read the rules to you so that there's no mistake. First, please wait till I read the question and all of the possible answers before the shouting begins.
Brother.
Like you do.
And understand that where there are disputes about the answers, a panel of real savvy judges chosen from a variety of community college and one online diploma mill will resolve those disputes. The judges'
Fact checkers? We have fact checkers now?
I think you just got Graham to smile.
The judges' decisions will be final. Now, remember, this is important. Remember, this is just for fun. So consider your answers as though your life depended on the accuracy. Okay, let's get started. Easy one first. The Pentagon chose not to commemorate what previously recognized cultural remembrance? A, National American Indian Heritage Month. B, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. C, Black History Month. D, Friends of Carlotta Remembrance Reception. And E, A, B, and C above.
E. All of them.
Graham got it. I'm going to mark this down, Graham, so we don't forget.
I don't think
Okay, number 2. You were just not fast enough, Sarah.
I was waiting for F. I didn't know.
There you go. Okay,
quiz.
number 2. What is the name of the China-based artificial intelligence company that sent Wall Street and Silicon Valley into a frenzy earlier this week? Is it A, Bleeding Edge, B, Intel Grasp, C, DeepSeek, D, Cheating GPT, or E, Mojave Mojo?
DeepSeek.
C.
C.
Graham got it with B.
No, No way. No way.
You know what, Dave? You're
C.
going to be in trouble.
C. It's C. Who said C?
I said deep seek.
Well, you
No,
have
but
to say.
even the letter, even either.
Okay.
Okay, I'm playing under protest.
Okay. Well,
too.
I'm going to give it to Sarah because I can.
Oh,
Anne?
you're kissing butt.
Where's Anne?
I think Lisa said C.
Okay, there's
about the
only
same
one
time as
butt
I
on
did.
panel that
I was
anybody
just
needs
Hold
to
it,
kiss, and
hold
it
it.
ain't mine.
Hold it. Remember, I'm going to consult the judges. Judges? Sarah got it.
All right.
Okay. Number 3. What did the food chain Steak and Shake recently replace its vegetable cooking oil with? Avocado oil? B. Clarified butter. C. Hydrogenated fat reduction. D. Tallow. Or E. Crisco.
D.
Tallow.
John got it with D.
I wrote that one.
It was D. It was tallow.
It was D. He said D.
What I said.
Oh, just you want me to check with the judges?
I want a buzzer.
Oh, I don't think he got it. I think I was faster than him.
I can give it to
Lisa
Sarah.
said it almost at the same time.
She can have it. I'll keep the tallow.
Hold it. Judges? Really? Who would have guessed? Okay, Sarah, you get it.
All right. She's kissing butt again. I tell you.
Okay.
There's only one butt on panel that needs to be kissed, and it ain't mine, and we all know who's it is. So, just
Number-
FYI,
Okay,
Dave.
this is a big one. So which Nebraska senator recently introduced a bill that would require social media websites to verify age before allowing Nebraskans to create a profile? A. Elizabeth Warren. B. Dan Lonowski. C. Max von Sydow. D. Bill Haggerty. Or E. Tanya Storer.
D.
Oh.
I think it's B, but I'm guessing. I get it narrowed down. B or
Haggerty.
D.
I'm sorry, no one wins. It is E. Tanya Storer.
Give that one to Sarah too. Sarah, you can have that one.
I
Who
was
is
thinking of
Who's the senator from Nebraska? Bill Haggerty, of course, is senator from Tennessee.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. No one got that. That's okay. Number 5. Which Senate committee voted 14-13 to advance Robert Kennedy Jr. to a full vote of the Senate floor for Secretary of Health and Human Services? Was it A, Senate Health, Labor, and Pensions Committee, B, Senate Un-American Activities Committee, C, Senate Finance Committee, D, Senate Judiciary Committee, or E, none of the above?
C.
the finance.
C, Finance. Lisa gets it. Yay. Okay. Number
Did you
6.
throw that one, Clar? You had to throw that one.
Number 6.
I said C. Go ahead. You can have it.
Yeah, but-
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you said D.
yeah, the judges-
I watched it. No, I watched it. I was
Yeah.
bated breath.
Yeah, no, I thought you threw that one. Okay.
The judges, John, did not hear you. Okay, number 6, the new White House press spokeswoman, Caroline Leavitt, told the press corps they could count on her to tell the truth. What did she say she expected the press corps to do? A, be on time. B, welcome the new reporters from other than legacy media. C, tell the truth too. D, wear proper attire. E, don't ask hard questions.
D, tell the
D.
truth.
Hold
Truth the
yourself to the
truth.
same standard.
Criminy.
That Graham got it. C.
I don't think I like you hosting.
Okay. Number 7. By what method of communication did the Trump administration offer 2 million federal employees a buyout? A, announced from the Oval Office. B, courier to each agency. C, text message. D, email. or E, 2 lanterns in the Old North Church bell tower in Boston?
D.
D. Yeah.
Sarah got it. It's D.
I give up.
Email.
See, I enjoy losing. This is the key. You have to enjoy losing. And then
Lisa, I
who
lose
is last
I lose
is first.
every time. So
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm getting these.
Okay, number 8. When taking questions from the Senate Intelligence Committee on January 30th, who did Tulsi Gabbard, President Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence, refuse to call a traitor? Was it A, Guy Lombardo, B, Edward Snowden, C, Mildred Pierce, D, Elon Musk, or E, Kash Patel?
B.
B. Mhm.
That was John.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I
Okay.
give it to Sarah.
Oh, stop.
I didn't answer.
So, 9, Trump wants to develop and deploy an anti-missile defense shield over the U.S. called Iron Dome. It will be a variation on what similar Ronald Reagan initiative? A, Star Wars, B, Overwatch, C, Strategic Defense Initiative, D, the Borg Assimilation Initiative, or E, A and C?
A.
A and C.
A and C, wasn't it? A and C.
Sarah got that, everybody else missed it.
Yep, she got it.
Okay, now last one.
John's
And-
glaring at me.
And the real,
Make him stop.
within 3 days of Donald Trump's inauguration, Democrats were criticizing the new president for not bringing down the price of what staple that the U.S. Department of Agriculture estimated could rise as much as 20%. A, lettuce, B, kosher chicken, C, grade A eggs, D, bread, or E, mayonnaise?
Eggs.
C. Eggs.
John got it with eggs.
And caviar. And caviar.
Oh, well, that's
Smoked salmon.
okay. And the winner is of Just for Fun.
Lisa.
Sarah wins. Sarah wins. Let's give a hand.
Good job, Sarah. Good job.
Yay. Okay.
Bravo, Sarah.
Over to you, Sarah. It won't happen.
Plus.
Well, folks, we're gonna clean this game up for the next time around. Not sure how we're gonna do that, but we are going to do our level best. Thanks for playing again. Hope we left you with some smiles and even some future cocktail chatter when you want to debate a point. Thanks for playing. We'll see you next time. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. The Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement. I'm your host, Sarah Callaghan. Thanks for joining us today for the latest news and commentary. Your choice for free thinking, free speech, libertynation.com.